Hey everybody, and welcome to today's tutorial, which is long overdue. Namely, in this video, we're gonna go ahead and see how to create the Adrian Pearsall chair that you can see over here in these images. Now, this chair was basically a part of what was supposed to be initially a weekly challenge, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, I had to put it off, and it's been off for long enough. So now we're gonna take a look at how to create this thing. Some of you guys actually did jump in and play around with the model. You made your own versions, one of which was very, very interesting. It was a different take on how to create this chair. It was basically made so it can be used in a game. Now, namely, as you can see over here, this was made by Elite Tech. And his take on the chair was a bit more worn out chair. And the good thing about his is that it has some custom things that I actually liked how it was made. Created for DKCGI, the weekly challenge. And if you zoom in right here, he's even put his very own logo, designed by Elite Tech Workshop and assembled in Wonderland. So all in all, not a bad thing to add on to your model to make it a bit more interesting. So if you want to check it out, go over to Sketchfab. You can find this model over there. But now let's get back to 3ds Max and see how we can create this chair here for visualization wise. So what I've done initially is the only thing that I had was just the name. So since the name for the chair was Adrian Pearsall, I did a quick Google. I gathered up some reference images, and I've put them all into this PureRef file. Now here I can see that this chair, well actually I did notice that this chair has quite a few variations, some of which are actually with the back arced to the front a bit, some are with the back just straight. But since I think that this one is a more interesting and it would be more entertaining to create, we're gonna go with what we're seeing here. So let's see how to model this thing. I'm gonna move my reference image to the other screen. And now this is what I have in my scene. What I've done is I just took two images, one from the left side and one from the front. I don't actually have the correct orthographic images that I can use, but well, we got to use what we have. So what I've done is I went over to a manufacturer's site and I checked out some of the sizes for this chair, and I've actually made a box just as a boundary box to help me out with the actual size for this chair, so I know how to how big I should make it. And I can see here that I have the length of 106.7, width 82, height 95. And the only thing that I've done here is put an edit poly on top of it and added an extra line. And this line should be the height for the actual seat. Now, I'm going to hide this for now, and I'm going to use this thing at the end just to make sure that my chair is within the actual bounds for this model. So now, before I actually start doing anything, it's always a good idea to take a look at your model and see how you can break it down. From what I can see in this model, this is actually very simple to break down because it has just a few simple elements. The first one is the legs. Then you have the rests for your arms, you have the seat, and you have these small support beams going on the front. And as well, if you take a look at the other one, you can see that we have one more support beam on the back. So knowing that, let's start off with the most prominent one, which is going to be the legs model. So I'm going to zoom in here, and let's start creating this model here from the legs. Let's zoom in here, go and create a simple standard plane. Now from here, just create one plane like this and convert it to an editable poly. All right, now to make it easier for us to see, what I'm going to do is, before I actually convert it to a poly, let's make sure that it has 1-on-1 segments. So now when I start moving this thing around, it's going to be easier to see. Now, to make it easier to see the background or the image, what I'm going to do is press Alt-X to make this thing see-through. And now I can start moving these around. Now what I'm going to do is, before I actually start adding in any more extra subdivisions here, what I'm going to do is just move it to this line in here. Now the reason why I'm moving it down to this line is because if you take a look at this thing, you can see that the grain of the wood changes here, so you have more stability to the chair. Now we're going to use this thing later on when we get to the unwrapping, but for now I'm just going to put one here. And now with the Swift loop, I'm going to go in. You can actually find the Swift loop in your modeling here. So Swift loop, just click in here, or if you have it bind to a shortcut as I do, now you know where to find it. So going forward, I will be using the Swift loop, so now you know exactly what I'm doing. So I'm going to put one in there. If you hold down Shift while you're putting Swift loop, it will basically put it in the middle. So it's going to average it out as well. So let's put it like this. All right. Now, I want to hold down Shift, extrude upwards once. And now here's where it gets interesting, because this is not an orthographic view. So we do have some perspective distortion placed in this image. So I'm going to have to do a bit of guesstimation as to where this thing ends. So I'm going to put it somewhere around here, pull it down like this, and just pull it once, move this thing up so it follows the image, and one more time so it kind of ends up around here. There we go. So that's fine. Let's move it to this side. Now, I'm going to pull it once here. That's fine. One more time over here. And another thing is that when you're pulling these vertices around, what you want to do is, when you get to the corner around here, you can see this highlight on the wood. This highlight is basically because the edges of this chair have been chamfered, or they have been worked on with a machine called a router. That router helps it so it kind of looks like it's rounded like this. So for now, what we want to do is we want to get this thing close to the edge, not here in the center, but actually over here on this border. So I'm going to hold on Shift, drag it once over here. Now one more time over here. Don't worry about the other ones. We're just trying to get the rough shape, and after we get the shape, we'll start moving in all of these vertices in their right position. So put one in here. That should be fine. All right, that's cool enough. There we go. Now hold on Shift, drag it upwards. Again, try to follow along this line. 1 and 2. I'm going to scale this thing inwards to about so. Moving there, one over here. All right. Now with this, we actually can see where we need to add in a bit more geometry to help us with following this curve. So we can do that. Put in one in here. That's good enough. We definitely need some more in here. You can try with 2. There we go, that's better. Also, I'm going to put one in here just so I don't have those long polygons to deal with later on. All right, that's good. Let's put in one over here. And this is a bit of that boring part of the job, but still, it does take a bit of time. But if you do it right, the end results are always really, really nice. All right, so we have this thing more or less placed down as a base. Now we can proceed to preparing this model for the thickness of the actual leg. To get the thickness, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this entire model that we've already created, the plane, and just move it in the front viewport. Just move it all the way to the side. Now again, here we have that same issue with the perspective distortion. So we're just going to have to guesstimate it a bit. But from the front, we can actually see how thick we want to have this thing be. Now, before we actually go ahead and add thickness by adding a shell modifier on top of this, I want to go ahead and just do a bit of prep work on this model and make sure that we're going to have some nice loops going around. So later on, when we use a turbo smooth, we're going to get some nice curves. Now, before I do that, I'm going to go in and just add in a couple of more edges so I don't have any of these elongated polygons like that we have over here. Let's check it out really quickly. That's fine so far. So now what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to go in and put a swift loop right around here. Put another one in here like this. One going across from here and another one from the top. And one here and here. Now I want to get some of these to meet up like these two. I want them collapsed, but before I collapse I need to connect and then collapse, connect, collapse. So in this case I don't actually need this thing to go in like that anymore. I'm also going to select these, control backspace and remove those. Then select these and reconnect again. Just there we go. So now I have this line going just around to the corner up here. Put in one extra over there and one on the bottom here. And let's just do the same thing to here as well. So again, connect and collapse, connect and collapse. All right, with that selected, double click, and we get rid of that. There we go. So now we have those edges turning right. There we go. One more over there. All right, so now we have the model all prepped up. If we need to move something, we can always just move it around. But for now, I'm just going to add a shell modifier on top of this. And this shell modifier is going to allow me to choose how thick I want this thing to be. Now, from the front, I can actually see over here where there is no distortion, how thick I want this thing to be. So if I go and increase it till about, I think here, 2.8 centimeters should be more or less the right thickness for this thing. There we go. Now, before I go ahead and do anything else, there is one more thing I need to check, and that is that the level for the base is the same height on the front and the back. Because right now, I'm going to add in just one more. These two, I don't think they're leveled. So the easiest way to level them is going to be just lock this thing on the y-axis and snap the bottom vertice here, click, and snap it to here. So that's going to give me the exact height for both of these. Now I'm going to slowly just move it backwards like so. And with this, I actually have them both sitting at the same exact height. I can check this thing by just selecting one of these vertices. Check the value for y. I can see it's 57,447. Select over here. All right, 46. actually what I'm looking here is the z-value. So the z-value is minus 0.091. Over here it's the same thing. All right, so the z-value is fine. That means both of them are anchored and are at the same height. So with the shell, we have the thickness. Now we need to address the middle part, which is the part that has been worked on with the router machine. Creating that sort of a model, or that sort of a detail to your model, is actually really simple. And you can do it by just using a very simple trick. What that trick entails is basically what you do is on top of your shell, you put an edit poly modifier, and then you go over here in the middle where I want to have that routed part. So I'm going to go ahead and just ring this selection and connect it with two segments like this. Now, these two segments are basically going to control how far this routing point is going to get pushed outwards. Now, the way that this is going to be controlled is, again, with another push modifier. But now here's the thing. This is a trick. Once you actually add in these two edges in the middle, without actually going out from your selection, which is going to be noted by this little icon that you see here, just apply a new push modifier. Now, once you do this, you're going to see that this thing is still selected, and next to the push modifier you have that edge selection icon. This means that whatever you do right now, it's only going to be influenced on your selection. In this case, those lines that we just created. So now with the push modifier here, we can control how far that thing is going to extend to. Now what I'm going to do is go back into our side view, and with this thing I'm going to control how far I want this thing to extend to. Maybe something like this. There we go. Looks 0.7, no, 0.6. Okay, 0.6 works. Let's check it out. It's fine over there. And on top of this, I'm going to put an edit poly now. Now with this, I'm going to do a bit of quick cleanup. Just make sure that everything is at the right place at the moment, because this will be our model. So we want to make sure that we get everything in the right position. But here is another thing that you need to be mindful, that at the moment we're moving all of these edges and we're just trying to see where the geometry should go. But the final result is going to be the one where we put a turbo smooth on top of this. So let's see how that is going to address. But actually, before we do that, here's another thing. We use that push modifier to push this along every axis where it's supposed to have that roundness. But there is one where we don't actually need to have that. And that is the base of the feet. So what I'm going to do is select this, grow the selection, and just make it planar here. So click on the Y, make it planar. There we go. We're going to do the same thing over here. So click, grow, Y planar. All right. And let's make sure that both of them will be on the ground. You're going to have to do a bit of cleanup, but it's not a big problem. So let's go. I'm going to put this thing to 0.7. There we go. Select the front. .7. And now they're both at the same height. All right, they're flat. Let's add in a turbo smooth so we can see the end results. And all right, so far so good. There we go. This is going to be helpful. So now what we have to do is just simply go in here, and when we see the final result, we just move in these vertices until the final model is matching what we're seeing in our reference image. Like I said, now you can move in these underlying vertices up until like where the final result is matching with your, oh, let's not miss that one, where it's matching with your reference image, like this. There we go. So just a bit of quick cleanup. There we go, we'll make sure that's fine. All right, it's following really well here. All right, now the only thing that I could maybe add in over here at the moment is, if you remember that line that I was talking about for the wood, if we want to make sure that it's exactly at the same point, it's going to be rather hard to add it with the texture or the unwrapping part without actually having a very distinct line going across it. So we can add that line, but before I do that, I just want to make sure that this thing is the right size or the right shape. There we go, that's fine. That's fine. Now, the way that you can add in that line is actually very simple. Just make sure you have it like this. And what you do is you're going to go in, select these polygons over here. And on top of this, with this selection, just add an edit poly. Actually, without that selection, I'm going to deselect it, just hit edit poly here. And with this selection of polygons, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a slice plane. So what the slice plane is going to give us is this plane that we can use it to add in. Oh, there we go. Wait, what? All right, I think it's bugging out a bit, but anyways, rotate the slice plane until it reaches like this. And now just move this, what the hell? Oh, of course, it's showing me the end result. All right, now rotate it around until it gets to the point where you want to actually have that cut line be. In my case, I'm actually put it right about here, I think. Actually, you know what? I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to put this edit poly on top of the turbo smooth. That was my initial problem, so that's why I was having those problems at the moment. So, all right, so this selection, and just add in a slice plane. Again, let's go in and rotate this thing like this. And move it to where we want to slice those polygons like this, and hit slice, turn off the slice, and there we go. Now I can move this thing upwards if I want to, but for now I'm actually going to leave it like this. All right, so I have a line. I can actually use this thing as it is right now, or I can put another turbo smooth depending on how smooth I need this thing to be. But so far, from what I have here, the legs are pretty much done at this point. I can either use it with one turbo smooth, or I can add another one. I think that for visualization wise, this is with two turbo smooths with one iteration each. This is enough. So we can move on to the armrests. And for the armrest, it's going to be really simple because it's more or less, we're going to use the same exact technique we use for the legs. We're going to do it just really fast for this one. Now what I mean by this is I'm going to go ahead and create a plane, which is going to give me just the thickness of the upper part here. There we go. Alt X to make it transparent. I'm going to rotate it just so it's at the right size. And now if I take a look at the images for the chair, I can see over here a clear look for this armrest here. And I can see that it's a pretty simple geometry. So let's quickly create this thing like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an edit poly on top of my plane. And now I know that for a fact over here, it's where this extrusion part starts. So we have one part for the extrusion over here. It ends around here, and then it ends over here. So that means I only need to have one plane with 4 different, maybe like this, and 1 to about here. All right, so with just having this thing, now we can move this thing over to this side, like so. All right, let's put it here so I can get the thickness right. And what I'm going to do is just going to put a shell on top of it to try to guess this thickness over here. So think about 4 centimeters over here is right. Now, to get that part here that's sticking out a bit, what I'm going to do is put a edit poly and just do a small extrude. Something like this, maybe 1.5. There we go. And move this thing a bit back. Now, when I'm moving this thing, I have my constraints put on edge so I don't screw up the actual form of this model. So with the constraint here, you can just press Shift X to bound or turn on the edge constraints. So just move it upwards like this. And I have this form already set up. Now I'm going to use my Swift loop to add in some extra edges here. Or actually, before I do that, I'm going to use the same technique that we previously used. So go ahead, just create a ring connection with connect. 2 segments with the push modifier to basically give us that look like we have over there. Another edit poly. And let's just go in and add in the support edges to help us hold the form. 1 there, 1 there. 1 over here, as well as I think over here. 1 over there, and another 1 over there. 1 at the back. And now we put a turbo smooth on top of this. We pretty much get that look here, although I think that we could get away without using this one. But we will need to add in some extra edges in here to hold this form. Let's see. All right, much better. We can move this thing to the back a bit. No, elements. There we go, that's good. All right, better. And for this one, let's move these around so it's rounded here. And we get this sort of a look. Now, that's more or less what I want to have for this side. I'm going to move the back side as well. Let's try and see how this is going to look without. Oh, actually, we do need that. Just don't need it so far back. There we go. Select both of them, scale them inwards, or we have to move them inwards now. There we go. It's all rounded and looks more or less what we're expecting to get over here. I'm going to move this thing into position. Check it out in the side view. I can see that it's actually the right size. Moved into position. Everything looks fine. All right. Just like that, we have both of these already finished. I'm going to make them gray so it's easier to see, and we can move on to creating the rest. But since we've been actually going on for this for half an hour, I'm actually going to cut the video short here, and we're going to continue on in the next video where we're going to finish off the entire model. So for now, I hope you guys had fun and you managed to learn some new tricks from this video. If you'd like to support me, you can always click the join button, and the direct links will be in the description below. And the most helpful thing that you can do is just click the subscribe button and comment below in the video. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.